Why Not? A queer podcast.
Thank you to our sponsor, Pineapple Healthcare, an award-winning primary care clinic right here in Orlando.
Pineapple Healthcare offers mental health counseling, HIV, STI testing and treatment, and specializes in care for the LGBTQ plus community.
Open Monday through Saturday. Call today at 407-553-6336 and schedule your appointment.
Pineapple Healthcare. Better together.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Todd.
And I'm Jeremy Williams, and you're listening to Wine.
Why Not? A queer podcast.
Oh, episode 81. I almost stepped over your line there.
Almost. You totally did. It's all right.
They know what it is by now.
I had so much confidence, too. Like, I was like, I got it right this time.
I can do it. I can do it.
God, I hope I get it. Yeah, 81.
Yeah, 81 episodes.
Everything I have to say about 81, I said last time, so.
81, the start to one of the best decades ever. Everyone was playing Atari, dancing to Michael Jackson,
snorting bags of Coke. It was great. I'm assuming. I mean, I was 6 years old in 1981.
Yeah. I was 2, and I still remember my first snort.
Did you see over the weekend there was a picture of Michael Jordan's son at a restaurant in Paris, just at the table.
Snorting? Really? No, I did not see that.
There was another video I saw that was just like, hey, make sure the cameras aren't on you. And it was just these guys at like a football game, I think, and they were like on the Jumbotron or something.
Just snorting away?
Like getting excited. And one dude just reaches down, grabs a key.
All right. We're getting real ballsy this close to the election.
That's going to be on the ballot soon. Recreational use of cocaine in public.
I feel like I read or I heard like in passing on the radio or something that an Olympian got booted for trying to find cocaine while he was in Paris.
Maybe he was just trying to stay away from it.
Maybe.
Like, excuse me, is there any cocaine over there?
I
only want to know so I know where not to go.
I didn't realize that coke was such a big problem for the Paris Olympics. I was distracted by the fake outrage between boxing and opening ceremonies.
Lord. Did you watch any of the final ceremonies?
Yeah, we watched a little bit of it. We kind of came in at the tail end, so we saw the Los Angeles taken over, and Tom Hanks. Tom Cruise parachuting down and snatching that flag and speeding away.
As soon as the rumor was that Tom Cruise is going to be in it, I said he's going to parachute in.
Yeah,
I mean, of course he's going to. And then, look, I guess it's all about interpretation, right? So, right on, America. But we just finished this awesome, artsy, just really well done show, and then they hand it off, and then we have MacGyver. Wait, what's his name now? Maverick. Jump on a motorcycle with a huge flag on it, like a pickup truck driving down the highway. Drives back to L.A. Don't really. Oh no! I said he did drive onto a.
He drove onto a carrier plane,
and then goes and lands in L.A., where the highlight of our transformation into the Olympics from Paris to L.A. is twerking with your ass hanging out. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, each city that does it, it's what that city is about, and I don't think Hollywood or L.A. is about much more than Hollywood and entertainment. So,
and twerking.
In 4 years, you're gonna see just a shit ton of celebrities and performers and California girls and all that good stuff.
Do you think they're going to bring back Olympic of the Stars? Is that what it was called?
I think we just...
Or was it just Circus of the Stars?
I don't entirely know what you're talking about. That may have been before my time.
I feel like in the 80s, and maybe in the 80s, celebrities would train and do circus acts. And I think that they should then, if they're going to go the celebrity route, they should make celebrities train and do Olympic sports.
Yeah. I think that if we're going to have to watch people swim in the Seine and 3 clowns make a menage a trois in the opening ceremonies, you're going to have to see Tom Cruise jump off of some
It
stuff.
was really the twerking with the butt hanging out. I mean,
Oh,
it was
Snoop
like,
Dogg?
but it was not him.
It was the Snoop Dogg. It was his backup dancers,
right?
though, right?
But I mean, like, why is she even wearing shorts at that point?
Because they were red, white, and blue America.
Oh, don't get me back to my fucking desk the other day about the American flag. Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's it's dance and art, and who am I to say it's not, right?
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
It sounded like you were just saying it.
I know, right? I was like, let's
You're
just
like,
redirect
I'm
this.
not one to say it, but I have something to say.
I think, I'm almost 50, so I get to say things without saying them, but saying them. It's kind of like that one guy who does those, I don't really know this, but I know this things in his little comedy bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll cease with the get off my lawn stuff. I'll save it for Big Brother's discussion.
Nice.
So did you do anything fun this weekend?
Yeah, I had family come in this week. My mom, my sister, my niece, and her new boyfriend all
that's
came
exciting.
in. So we hung out. We went to Hollywood Studios on Saturday, which I haven't ridden rides and like actually done that park since it was MGM. But as we were passing by the Brown Derby, I remembered the last time that I was at Hollywood Studios was for One Magical Weekend in 2016. And we watched the Kesha concert because I was walking by and everybody was like, oh, have you seen this? I was like, I told you guys, I haven't been here since MGM. And I passed by the Brown Derby and I just was flooded back with all the memories.
Do you remember Chris walking away
Yes,
from
with
there?
the tassels.
And he had like streamers or
Yeah.
something all around him? Yeah.
I got video and photo of that still on my phone. But yeah, that was like a week and a half before Pulse happened. So like, it was a very different, it was like right before 9/11 type vibes.
Yeah.
Like, it felt
different
like
time.
the last.
Gays were getting engaged
Unhinged.
on the Kesha stage. It was just all fun.
Yeah. But it was the first time I've actually seen the Star Wars area and was blown away. My niece's boyfriend is a huge Star Wars fan. So we were anticipating we'd walk in and he'd just be like giddy. No, he was cool as a cucumber. I was running around like a 4-year-old and I was like, oh my God, look at this. This is in the movie. But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Did you get to ride any of the Star
We
Wars
rode
rides?
not the Millennium Falcon one, the other one.
Rise of the Resistance.
Rise of the Resistance.
Isn't that incredible?
It was awesome. I
Like
loved
that,
it.
That thing when that elevator or whatever opens up and you walk onto that thing and you see space out there and
Yeah.
all those, sometimes they put like actual people in stormtroopers things in that crowd and they yell back at you.
We were wondering because it looked like a bunch of animatronics. We were like, I wonder if they have a couple of stormtroopers who like
sometimes
come in and hide in there.
Yeah, it's pretty
but
cool.
it was a lot of fun. We went to the cantina and we had some drinks and I gnawed on a Rancor bone. It was a good time. It's a really good time. Hot.
I don't know what that means, but
It's a Star Wars thing.
I'm gonna put
Yeah.
it. I'm gonna make it up
We
in my
drank
mind
the
and
blood
giggle.
of Rancor and snapped on its bones.
That weird milk thing.
Oh, we did have blue milk, which was delicious.
Yeah, but did you? Okay, so that to me is like having one of those impossibly hot wings and then drinking the pickle milkshake and then walking around Epcot to drink blue milk in 105-degree weather and walk around
it's
a park.
called blue milk, but it didn't taste creamy. It was more. I mean, it had a creaminess to it, obviously, but it didn't have that milk consistency. Like, why am I drinking this in 100-degree weather? It had ice and it was refreshing. I thought it was delicious.
okay.
I loved it. I loved everything about the Star Wars thing. I want to go back. And I was approached by stormtroopers, but they caught me off guard and they approached me like cops, and I froze. Because I was telling everybody, I was like, oh my God, if we get approached by stormtroopers, we should be like, we're not the droid you look for. And they come around and like, hey, we told you weren't allowed in this sector anymore. And I froze and I was just like, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Stormtrooper man.
And then their handler was like, you need to grow your Wookiee beard out more so they can't recognize you. And I was like, okay.
And you went,
But I was like, now I know how people who are approached by cops feel because I got scared.
every time I see those blue lights, I pee
Yeah.
a little. Did you write anything else other than Star Wars? Did you do anything else?
Well, we did the Muppet Show. You know,
Did you go on the Mickey
Indiana
and Minnie?
Jones? No, we didn't
ride?
do the railroad thing. That line was like 2
So
hours
long.
long. They went and did. I've done the Tower of Terror before, and they went and done that. I was like, I'm gonna go get a drink.
Did you eat at any restaurants there?
We did one of the Star Wars restaurants. I don't
okay.
remember.
Oh, like fast food.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we didn't do the reservation or nothing like that. Well, I mean, we did for like the cantina because you have to make a reservation. But no, just kind of grabbing food along the way. But it was good. It was good. And I did D23. I don't know if you know what D23 is. It was this weekend. That's like the big Disney convention.
I know because they announced
Yeah.
Stitch, and I'm a huge Stitch fan, so I was shown that video 1,000 times.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they announced a bunch of stuff coming to the theme park. And they've got like they're putting a Monsters Inc. land there. They're with the doors
At the studios?
at Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, because I got to tell you, I mean, outside of Star Wars, there's not anything there to keep you or grab your attention.
Yeah.
And even like after you ride Rise of the Resistance, you don't need to ride Millennium Falcon anymore. So it's like they need something to revive that because they got the Primetime restaurant is great. Hollywood and Vine restaurant is great. And then Rise of the Resistance is really good. Outside of that, you're kind of like,
Yeah. Well, they announced that they're making changes to the Millennium Falcon. They're going to add the Mandalorian and Grogu into the story. So they'll be involved with the Millennium Falcon thing now.
Is that a different way of saying Baby Yoda?
Grogu, yes, his
Okay,
name
cool.
is Baby Yoda. Yeah.
Is that his Christian name?
Yeah. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff they announced. So go online, look it up. But they're adding a bunch of stuff to Animal Kingdom, and I mean they're adding other stuff. The big one is though at Magic Kingdom they've announced that they're building a Villains Land. And they're going to
that's
have an
exciting.
entire area devoted to villains. And I think it's meant to compete with Universal's Universal Monster Land. They're like, we got to have something scary for the kids.
I'm surprised it's taken this long.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there will be an entire gay day party just with the villains.
Yeah.
The gays love the villains.
Yeah. Because they're all gay coded. They're all gay. All Disney villains are gay.
Oh, so Disney's saying that gay people are villains.
Yeah,
I
there's
got it.
on YouTube, there's like a 2-hour documentary
like
on
Scar.
the queer coding of
Yeah,
Disney
Scar,
villains.
Queen of Hearts.
Ursula,
yeah.
Maleficent, Captain Hook. They're all gays. Every one of them. Gaston is one of the beefy bears, and I don't know what the other ones are. Ursula is a drag queen. They're all homos. But yeah, so it was very exciting, kind of, because those tidbits were coming in while we were walking around Hollywood Studios. So it was kind of cool to see how it is now and how it's going to be here coming up. So, but had a really good time hanging out with the family.
It's awesome.
They left out today this
And the
morning.
boyfriend was nice.
Very nice, very nice.
I mean, I'm not going to say anything bad about him on the podcast, but if you want to tell me afterwards.
I doubt he listens, but I mean, he may.
Of course he is.
But you know, he was really cool. He thought I was cool, and that's all I need in the world.
Well, he sounds smart.
Somebody thinks I'm cool, then they're cool with me. But yeah, so that was pretty much it. That was my week, just hanging out with them. We went to Disney Springs and did all the touristy stuff. How about you? What'd you do this week?
Well, I had a bit of a rough week. It started off with some good news, though, so I'll just announce this. I don't know if I said this last time or not, but Watermark got into. We applied to be part of this cohort, which is just a group of newspapers. There's a company that it's called Local Media Association, and they really help newspapers find sustainability, which is great. And they hold these cohorts, and they're doing one on fundraising for journalism, which I really wanted to be part of because it's a whole new part of running a newspaper that I'm unaware of and completely hungry to learn about it. And we got accepted into that, and it's amazing. It's like a 6-month thing. It's going to be a lot of work, but I'm super excited about it. So that was the
Nice.
good news, right? But then it just all went downhill. And without getting too specific into anything, I'll just say that, and I don't know if I've had this conversation with you at all, but on Wednesday, I discovered that there are a ton of errors in in let's just say our not accounting, like not from our accountant, but in our bookkeeping, there was someone who was tasked with entering things into our system, and it is completely wrong. To the
Are we poor?
to the tune. No, it's just it's like I was talking to the accountants and like, hey, we need to get this ready and let's look
Yeah.
at this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, let me get it ready. And I go in to look at it and my jaw dropped. I worked all weekend and late nights ever since Wednesday. I was working, just trying to correct all of these things. And it's just, and once I would discover one thing was wrong, I mean, just things like, if you're entering a bill and the bill's like, let's say it's $190.50, it was entered at $190, because really, what does cents matter when it comes to accounting? So it's just things like that. So I was like, and I'm sitting there and I'm sort of like, and you know me, right? So I'm like hate doing this, right?
Yeah.
Like, and
Slamming into the
every
keyboard.
time I find another one, I'm like, another mistake. And it's and poor Dylan, who is in the office in St. Pete on Thursday and Friday, and then who wanted to do things on like Saturday, and I'm just like, I got to go to the office. But every time I'd find a mistake, I would like verbally yell something. So he said, because he knows me very well, and he was like, how about Friday night you step away from it and we'll do something that's soothing to you, because there's one thing that I love to do that will calm all of my nerves no matter how mad I am.
Go on.
I know. Are you excited to find out what it is? It's baking cookies.
Oh.
But specifically,
Not what I thought it was.
But specifically iced sugar cookies, right?
Yeah.
So Dylan and I have this we call it a side business, but it's not a real business. We don't sell any. We just pretend that we do. But we have a side business called Bay Bakes, and it's BAY Bakes. Check it out on Instagram. We have all of the cookies on there that we do. Iced sugar cookies are my favorite cookie in the world. Mm-hmm. And so a really good friend of ours taught us how to make them because I think she got tired of me asking her all the time to make them. So I just make them and eat them. And then Dylan's like, he's creative. So I bake the cookies and I make the icing and I do all the colors and he designs them all. And then like if he'll do the lines, and I'll go back in and flood them in and fill them in. But we were like, let's just make a whole bunch. I was like, I go to 12-step meetings and I said, when you do that, the first chip you get, is sort of this white chip that's like a symbol of surrender into, this new way of life kind of a thing. And so we made a bunch of white chip cookies.
Oh,
and I'm
all right.
going to take them to a meeting tonight and give them away and all that kind of stuff. So that was cool. And we also made he made pineapples and sunglasses. They're adorable. And they're super delicious. So
Don't give them to people upside down.
that's, what's so funny is like, this is, people are so sexualized. So we just post this picture of them and we're like, these are cute. And somebody commented, turn them upside down and you'll get a swinger. Like, yeah, we know.
Yeah. Gotta be careful with the
Like,
pineapples
thanks
these
for
days.
pointing it out. But it's so funny how just baking cookies, and it's like when you do ice sugar cookies, it's actually back-breaking work. Like my back is killing me and all this, but there's just something about it because I know they're delicious and I know they're going to turn out really cute that I love doing it, and it changes my whole mood.
Yeah,
So then I had a good
think
weekend.
it's important to have everybody to have that thing. Like me, it's building Lego, just to have the thing to clear your mind, focus on something that's not all the noise from the outside world, just to keep your mind clear and keep your sanity.
It makes me want to do it more and more and more. Like I want to actually put products out there. So I was telling Dylan because there's OutCon that's coming up in November that the LGBTQ plus center is putting on, and Dylan has a booth there, and I was like, listen, we can make a bunch of cookies and you can sell them at your booth while you do your photography thing. So we might do that too.
Do little camera
Help
shaped
get that.
cookies.
Or like, gay ones because it's OutCon. Although rainbow flags are a pain to do. There's so many colors. When there's like 7 or 8 colors, you've got to like do one color, let it set, do another color, let it set. They take forever.
Yeah,
But I love them.
Speaking of hobbies, one thing I forgot to mention that I was really excited about is when my niece's boyfriend came, he was obsessed with my Lego room when he saw the Lego room. So while we were at Disney Springs, he bought a bunch of Legos and he's getting into it. He got some Star Wars Legos. I think I turned someone onto Lego, which makes me very happy.
Because of your love of Legos, I notice them when I see them around. And at Sam's Club, they have a Stitch Lego that's
Yes.
pretty big.
They have it's a
It's like
buildable
60
Stitch, has the little Hawaiian shirt on it.
it's
Yeah, it's very cute.
$60, pretty big. I almost got it. I didn't. I don't know why I have this smile. It's a mild obsession with Stitch.
Yeah.
I don't have like a Stitch tattoo yet, or even a Stitch mug. But I do. Every time I go to Disney, I almost buy like 4 or 5.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand. You know, the Lilo and Stitch live action movie is coming.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was also announced at the D23. Yeah.
You're joking, Greg. You're joking like this is news to me.
Yes,
It's
I know. You saw the
it's
trailer
like poor
already.
Ryan. If every time like Little Mermaid farts, Ryan gets 700 messages from people about like, hey.
Yeah.
So then I did something else yesterday that we don't have to go really in depth into. I finished, by the way, House of Dragons.
All right.
So we can discuss that on the podcast or off the podcast, whenever you do.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to talk about it, and I have a lot to say about the last 3 minutes of this series.
Oh, of season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mean all the build up and nothing?
You know what? I'll just say, okay.
Yeah.
Since we're here, it's like the fucking Lord of the Rings movies where there's like, oh, we're all like, we're going to have this battle. Major things are going to happen. People are going to die. We get to the top of the mountain and the credits roll.
Yeah.
That's
exactly what it was.
happened.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Everybody was posting about it, saying it was an 8-episode trailer to season 3.
Just give us something. It got good, though.
Yeah.
Like this, it's the second season way better than the first.
The acting and just the stakes, everything is just getting so elevated.
I did not appreciate like the first 5 or 6. It was definitely episode 7 where I started getting into it. But after watching season 2, I was like, well, there's nothing else they could do. They needed to give you all that exposition.
Yeah.
And you needed to learn the relationships before any of the rest of it mattered to you.
Story-wise, I thought it was great. I just would have liked it because the first season was 10 episodes, if they'd have taken those 2 episodes instead of just doing an 8-episode season and give us the first of the big battles that are coming. Because if you've read the book, you know that there's like 3 or 4 like major battle points that are coming in the next season or in the next 2 seasons, because they've said they're only doing 4 seasons.
Or at least start the battle.
Yeah.
Like one fiery ball cannoned into a castle and then cut.
And I probably wouldn't be so annoyed if it was like old television style and it was like, we knew you're just closing down for the summer and you'll be back in September. But these people aren't coming back at least for 2 years.
Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah. So anyway, great show.
Oh yeah, because we're gonna
check
talk
it out.
about it like right.
But yeah, definitely.
So then, but I went and saw Deadpool yesterday.
Oh, all right. What'd you think?
Well, I think that I should describe it to you like this.
Sure.
You need to know my state of mind when I showed up at 4:05 to watch this movie. I had driven to St. Pete late Saturday. And watched Challengers, which we're going to talk about in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I got to sleep. I woke up, I had an early softball practice, so we were out in what felt like 105-degree weather from 9 to 11 playing softball. And as soon as I got home, mowed the grass, edged, all that kind of stuff, and then watched 2 hours of Big Brother, and then got dressed. I mean, this was all back to back to back to back. Then got dressed and went and sat in a dark, cold theater with my legs propped up.
Yeah, you went to sleep, didn't you?
Now, you've seen it twice.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know when the two of them are in that diner?
Yes.
How far into the movie is that?
I mean, that's probably 30, 40 minutes, I guess.
Yeah, that's when I came to. Like, I was in and out of consciousness, and I kind of got an idea of what was going on, and I did see some things. But that's when I think Jen thought I was dead. She looked over and she said that my joke, like, I was like, she couldn't tell if my eyes were open or not, but she could tell my mouth was hanging open, and she thought I like croaked. And so she kind of said something, and I was like, "Oh, sorry." And from that moment on, I was awake. But it was okay. It was good. I mean, I knew what was going on. I could pick up on the context clues for what I missed, and I just kind of talked to her about it.
So did you sleep through the Chris Evans part?
I did not Totally. He was in it, and I was like, oh, Captain America's there. In fact, afterwards, I said something to Jen about Captain America being in it, and then she's like, oh, so you slept through the part where it wasn't Captain America. It was the guy from Fantastic Four, Johnny, whatever.
Yeah, Johnny Storm.
Towards the end of it, I'm like, why did they keep calling him Johnny? That wasn't Captain America's name.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That one of the jokes was because he played in the original is that everybody thinks, oh, it's Captain America, and then he's like, flame on, and it's actually his Fantastic Four character.
Yeah. I thought, I mean, it's funny. As far as Marvel movies go, Deadpool is my second favorite, and Guardians of the Galaxy is my favorite. Yeah. So, well, and then Spider-Man, but come on. I'll like any movie Tom Holland's in.
Sure. Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. The thing I'll say, like, sort of just the drawback of it is that what they try to do, it's so much. It's just it's flooded with some of these. And so I get why you went and saw it twice, because you're gonna miss everything if you don't go see it multiple times.
I will say, I love the Marvel movies. I love Deadpool movies. This is not a fantastic story. Like, the story of this is just kind of like, eh. But it's the fans go to see all of the Easter eggs in there because this was the big last hurrah for the Fox Marvel properties, because everything's been absorbed back into Disney.
So this was a Fox movie.
All of the movies they referenced, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, were all from the Fox universe.
And so that during the credits, that homage or whatever is the death of Fox.
Yeah. It was kind of the, that Seinfeld episode of, I hope you enjoyed the last 20 years because they don't matter now.
Right. And I appreciate, I have the same view as Deadpool. Like, come on. Come up with a new storyline. The multiverse is tired. And like, whatever is in this movie doesn't matter because the next movie is going to do whatever the fuck it wants to anyway. And so if we could close that loophole, that'd be great. And he got that. But the one thing I really like that I did get that Jen didn't get until I pointed it out to her afterwards was, I keep calling her Alias because I never watched her. But Jennifer Gardner's character,
she was Elektra.
When they were talking about the people who were dead, and they said that they had to go back and save Daredevil, and she goes, "That's okay."
Yeah, there's actually two divorce jokes in there. There's that one because obviously her ex-husband played Daredevil the first time, and then he made reference to Wolverine looking really fit since the divorce.
Oh yeah,
him and his wife separated a year or two. Or something. So he made reference to his divorce also, which I think was humorous.
Yes, there's a lot of that, and there was something about breaking the nice Deadpool. It's like I can break the fourth wall too, and then he made a joke about another Ryan Reynolds movie. Yeah, which I'm assuming Blade was in this too because Ryan Reynolds was in Blade.
Well, Blade was in this because Blade is also Marvel.
Yeah.
But yeah, that there was a few jokes of between them and supposedly when they made that movie, Wesley Snipes did not care for Ryan Reynolds at all.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I bet he loves him now.
Oh yeah. They're best friends now.
Yeah. Now, Blade is a vampire, no? Or is he a vampire slayer?
He's a little bit of both. He's a daywalker. He's got the vampire in him, but he takes a serum that represses the vampire in him.
So he can age.
Yes, I believe he can.
Because I was like, that vampire got old.
Yeah, slowly. Like Mystique, the blue one from the X-Men movies who can shape-shift, Wolverine, Blade, they all age at a slower rate than us normal humans.
Yeah. I did enjoy it. I'm going to watch it again, but when it's free.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'll enjoy it. And when I'm not so tired. I do like those movies, so it's
yeah.
But I am 50-ish, so when you put me in a dark theater, I'm gonna go.
It'll
sleep.
happen, particularly if you've done nothing but exerted yourself the whole day. Yeah, you get in a nice cold theater, out like a light.
I'd like to be in a nice cold theater right now.
Yeah.
I was about to put on a T-shirt before we did this. Yeah, but it's like they're fixing the air. Well, they say that. Maybe they're fixing it. They're doing something to the air.
They definitely have it off to do something with it.
It's turned off, and it's like 86 in here, and we had to close the door.
Yeah.
So it's a little cuckoo.
But yeah.
Good times.
Lots of good things happening this week or last week.
Speaking of good things,
Yes.
these are not good things. I'm curious because we watched another week of Big Brother.
Yeah.
And I could hear you watching and you started to get to the point where you're reacting and you're yelling at your screen.
Yeah.
I do remember at one point I think I heard you yell liar to your screen, and
Yes.
I'm just curious just before we get
Brooklyn's a liar.
That's
what I
thought for
lied at.
sure you were yelling that about Tucker, who clearly has no understanding of the conversations that he's had. But what is your overall? Has your impression of Big Brother changed? Are you finding it more interesting? Are you getting into it?
It's more of a hate watch right now. There are certain people that I like in the show. I do have that kind of thing like you have where when I see somebody who's backed into a corner and it's like they have nobody, I start rooting for them. And I'm starting to like Angela.
Oh no, that'll never happen to me.
I'm watching. She's like, it's like they're all like every week. It's like Angela's going up. She's our next target, and she's just like ducking and bobbing and weaving and just.
I feel bad for
sticking around.
the underdogs when they don't deserve it, but she's earned all of the.
Yeah, but the whole Pentagon thing, it's too much of a group. I don't like the teaming up. Like we're a team and we're gonna take you down. I don't care. I'm not gonna root for big teams. Not gonna do it.
All right. All right. So let's get into the episodes.
Yeah.
So where we left off last time, they had just had the nomination ceremony. Cedric,
Yes.
is the head of household, and he had nominated Angela, Kenny, and Tucker. Tucker had volunteered to go up, so that's who we nominated. And then the episode we watch, it always starts off with the fallout of the nominations.
Yeah.
And in this whole fallout, at some point, Tucker becomes... See, I wrote this down, and I appreciate this. At this point, I appreciate the game that Tucker is playing, because Tucker thinks everything's boring, and he wants to flush out. He wants to...
Yeah, he wants to stir things
Yeah,
up.
stir things up. And
He wants to find out who has the powers.
It's too boring, and he wants to find out who has the powers. So he gets into a conversation with Chemo. Now, Chemo is in 2 alliances with Quinn.
Yes.
But Tucker says, I think Angela was trying to tell me that Quinn has the power-up, or the upgrade, or whatever it is. And Chemo immediately drops his drawers and is like, yes, I know for a fact that it's him. Because he's in love with Tucker.
He's got a thing for Tucker.
I gotta tell you, this is like as a fan of this show, this is the worst way to play a game. It's not The Bachelor. You know, you're not giving out roses. You tell your alliance members' secrets to somebody else who clearly, one of my favorite lines in Big Brother every year, and everybody says it, don't tell anyone else.
Yeah.
Bitch, this is Big Brother. They're going to tell everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they're going to use the information to further their game. So unless you're working with somebody and you know 100% that they're gonna link up with you, they're gonna use that information and they're gonna throw it back in your face. Immediately, I said, Chemo, you messed up. Bad move.
Chemo, he's just lonely. He's just lonely, and he's drawn in by Tucker and his cockiness and those muscles. And I'd give Tucker my
Muscles.
ATM pin.
He's got 0% body fat, which makes it look like he has muscles.
I'm sorry. You can hate Tucker for a lot of things, but when he shows us those biceps, those are nice.
I know, but I just can't. It doesn't matter how good looking you are. If I just don't like you, I just don't like you. It's like, so when he did the bicep thing, it was not exciting for me. I was just like, I rolled my eyes. But anyway, that's just how it goes. I switch back and forth. I do write.
Yeah.
I write the words I hate a lot when I'm watching the show because I kind of hate watch it too. And I go back and forth between Angela and Tucker at this point. But then, except for Kenny. So I just want to address Kenny because he comes up in this moment while they're talking about the fallout of who got nominated. Kenny is all over the place with wanting to not be there. And then he's like, I miss my family and I miss my kids and I want to go home. So vote me out. And then he goes, but I'm going to play really hard for win this veto. But if you want to vote me out, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's just it's the most obnoxious thing.
It is a pain in the ass. And when he's talking to T-Core and he's just like, I'm in so much pain every night not being near my kids and my wife. And the look on T-Core's face where she's just like, That's how I feel. That's how everyone feels. It's like, if you don't want to be here, Kenny, the door's not locked. It opens.
Right.
Fucking go.
Now, I mean, there are things that we learned later on that I'll go back and make comments about. But at this point, I'm just like, do you know how hard it is to get on the show and how many people try and how many years people try to get on the show? If you don't want to be there, don't be there. So listen, everybody, if you're thinking that you want to go on Big Brother, in order to win, you have to spend like 90 days in this house away from your family and your job and everything. If you watch the show, you know this.
Yeah.
So you either do it or you don't. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Did the air just kick on?
I don't feel it.
I think it did. We could do a 4-hour podcast now. So I just wrote down he shouldn't even be in there. I just think it's disrespectful to the people who didn't make it into the show.
Yeah. At that point, I was like, you know what? There are people who I don't like in the show. Like, I'm like, I'd like to see him go out. But at that point, I was like, get Kenny out of here.
Yeah, 100%.
Let everybody who wants to be here play. Kenny, you can go.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm like, even though I don't like certain people, they are at least playing a game and they should be in there.
Yeah.
And I would be insulted if I was in there. Like, you can't be in an alliance with him because all he wants to do is go home. Like, what do you think? You'd be there a week? It's not. So it's not so fierce.
Yeah.
Okay, so they go to the veto It's time for the veto competition. So it's, Cedric's going to play Angela, Kenny, and Tucker, and they draw names, and it's Mackenzie and Leah.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, I kind of like a lot, Leah.
Leah? Is her entire personality Margot Robbie as Barbie? Is that what she's going for? Because
she looked like Barbie.
All of her costumes, all of her outfits in the house, look like costumes from Barbie.
It may be. I think that they do things like the house gets together and they're like, oh, hey, for this competition, let's all dress up like 80s aerobics or something, because they all had that theme going on. I just think like what we see of what goes on is so little of what actually goes on. Like they do arts and crafts things with them all day because they just get so bored and insane.
Yeah.
That they have to come up with these things to entertain themselves. But so then the veto competition happens, and the explanation of the veto competition is probably the most convoluted veto competition that's ever existed in this game ever. But basically, they have this big pipe with different shapes and things on it, and they've got to walk it from one end of a room to the other without hitting any vines. They can hit the bamboo things, but if they hit the vines, then it sucks the power out of their
battery
thing that they're carrying, and whoever makes it to the end with hitting the vines the less wins. So Cedric starts off, he ends up at 40%. Mackenzie made me laugh because she said all she could think about was Ross Geller. When it going through the things, like pivot.
Yeah,
which made me laugh. Leah then went. There's nothing significant about her turn.
No, she drained pretty low. Angela's real low.
But her sound effects were kind of making me laugh.
Yeah.
That she was doing. And I thought Tucker was kind of funny too, because he put on like started off Australian, then turned kind of cockneyed British, but he was just making a joke out of the whole thing. And then Kenny gets up there and says, I'm going to win this. And I wrote, I don't believe anything that you say, just go home.
Yeah. No.
So the top three
Mackenzie, Tucker, and Kenny.
Mackenzie took third.
Yep.
Kenny took second. Tucker wins.
Yep.
So this is where
I was like, wow.
This is where everything changes.
Yes.
And so I said, I read ahead, so I knew that this was happening. In fact, I read and it said that who Tucker, that he wasn't going to use the veto on himself. He was going to take this other person down. And I just rolled my eyes and I'm like, why are we doing this? Why? Just get rid of her. And then, so while we're watching it and Jen's thinking everything's going to go as normal, I just looked at her and I said, whatever you think is about to happen is not what's about to happen. It's all going to go crazy.
So Tucker, as we said earlier, wants to shake things up.
Right. And he wants to draw out these the power-ups,
yeah.
which I totally get. I mean, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of getting out the strongest players. I understand why you want to do that. But to me, it's get out the floaters, get out the people who are not playing the game, and then have a battle of the best. And I think that's an honorable way to do it. But I'm sitting at home. I don't have $750,000 on the line.
Yeah.
So I get why they want to do it.
When you got that much money, I don't think that anyone's playing honorably.
Right. So, I mean, I feel like if I went in, that's what I would do. I would take the person who was the strongest player with me to the end, and I would hope that I was the strongest player that beats them. So, but anyway, who knows? If I were actually doing it, I probably wouldn't make it past the second week. I don't have a poker face. I couldn't pretend to be happy for somebody when they won. Like how everybody went excited when they found out Tucker won a competition.
Yeah.
I would have been like, ugh. So anyway, Tucker goes to Cedric because what's going to happen here is everybody's thinking that Tucker's going to take himself off the block and that then Cedric has to put somebody else up. So Tucker comes up with this plan to say, I'm going to save Angela. And then that'll put me and Kenny up there. And then you nominate Quinn because Quinn has to power up. It's now been confirmed. Everybody knows Quinn has to power up. And that'll force him to use it. Or he goes, oh, no, he couldn't use it because the point for him to use it is already passed in this week.
Yeah.
So then you put him up there. The idea being then that Tucker would win the AI competition and it would be Kenny and Quinn on the block on the elimination night and everybody would vote Quinn out.
Yeah.
So this is what Tucker wants to happen because he wants to get Quinn out because he says Quinn is the best player in the house when it's really Tucker. So, So he pitches that to Cedric, and Cedric says to himself, he doesn't say this to anybody, or the producers don't show us any of this. So it gets to the veto competition, and Tucker, with all the confidence in the world,
that the plan's going to go through how they talked about it.
Takes Angela off the block, and then says, we got to get out the best players. That's why we're doing this. And then Cedric stands up and says, my replacement nominee is Mackenzie. And Tucker's whole world just collapsed. So he puts up Mackenzie. Mackenzie then says, well, I mean, Tucker has words. Tucker's obviously very upset and he feels blindsided.
Yeah.
And so
he's gunning for Cedric
and
now.
he's just yelling at Cedric. Just jabs here and there, like, you're stupid. This is the stupidest move. How dare you do this? You got to go after the tough players and blah, blah, blah. So he's just very upset. He feels blindsided. So then Mackenzie gets up there and Tucker's like, well, this ends the veto ceremony. And Mackenzie's like, no, it doesn't. Because she has America's veto. So she puts America's veto up there. And then America votes on who the replacement nominee is going to be.
Yes.
And that goes up to the next episode. Did you vote?
No, I watch these later
afterwards.
on. Yeah.
I read that it was happening, so I voted.
Who'd you
I gave
vote for?
all of my votes to Rabina.
Rabina?
Yeah.
Why?
Because when there was a moment when Cedric was looking for the third person to put up, and he said, I just need a volunteer to go up. And she immediately, forcefully said, it's not me.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is the attitude of someone down the line that's going to be problematic. So just get rid of her, was my philosophy. But I guess they were showing some things here about, there were conversations. They showed a conversation with Tucker and Cedric.
Yeah. Well, that was the end of episode 10. Then they go to episode 11 and they start it with what happened, what led up to Cedric picking Mackenzie. And he's like, he went to Tucker. First he went to the Pentagon and he's like, here's the plan that Tucker came to me with. And they're all like, no, we don't like it. No, we don't like it. So Cedric went to Tucker and said, hey, we do not have the votes. And Tucker, so he says, just pull yourself off. And Tucker goes, no, I'm still going to do this. And then when they're up there and Cedric's like, you told me we had this in the bag. He goes, no, I didn't. I told you use the veto on yourself. We didn't have the votes. He goes, no, you didn't.
I know. That's what's so frustrating when you watch. And one thing I like about Big Brother is like when somebody is
They
wrong.
fact check him right there.
They
cut
fact check
to
right
it.
there. They cut right back to it where he's like, you never told me to use it on myself. And then they cut to Cedric saying right before the ceremony, use it on yourself. We don't have the votes.
Yeah.
Now, the we don't have the votes thing wasn't necessarily true.
Yeah.
It just, but the beginning part was. And I think Tucker's whole, like, he's just, there's a thing that people do in Big Brother where they act one way in front of everybody else, but when they go to the diary room, they're like, yeah, I know, I'm lying, but like Quinn will be like, yeah, I'm lying out of my ass, but I'm trying to do this thing. Tucker doesn't do that. Tucker actually believes
that they don't show you.
He actually believes that he's right. But I think they showed him in the diary room saying like he was blindsided and I don't know. I just think like the anger that's coming from Tucker is unwarranted. I mean, it's unnecessary. That's where I'm just kind of like, when you're looking at somebody and you're pointing in their face and you're like, I'm going to kick your ass. It's like, oh, you're such a tough guy. That kind of shit irritates me.
But I don't think he's doing that. I think he's just overly passionate and aggressive with the game. But he never once said, I'm going to kick your ass.
Or he said, I'm going to get your ass. Maybe that's what he said. But the other thing that irritates me is about Tucker is that Tucker came up with this plan, right? Mm-hmm. But Tucker's not the head of household. And the head of household gets to decide how the things go. So Cedric decided this wasn't best for my game. So it's not up to Tucker. It's like, it's not nobody told Cedric he had to go with your plan. Yeah. And he's just acting so butthurt that, I had this great plan and nobody's doing it. It was great for your game, buddy, but it's not great for Cedric's. And I think Cedric made the right move.
It becomes a moot point.
It becomes a totally moot point because when America votes, they vote for Quinn.
They put Quinn up there.
And I'm wondering if it has anything to do with the way it all went down, because the voting was going on for a while an episode played, or people could watch the live feeds, and so they were just kind of like, oh, we're just going to put them up anyway. I mean, you don't really have a lot of choices once you've got the people that everyone really hates are already up there.
Yeah.
I think that if people could have voted, that the fans would have voted Kenny out, just said get rid of him because of his from him not wanting to be there. Yeah, but I couldn't. It sounded like that. Like, oh, you're not playing the game I want. You're not playing the way I want to. But it's not about you. And then, of course, there's a big blow up. And Cedric's trying to have a conversation with Tucker to just to outline, hey, listen, this is what I tried to tell you. Let's see if we can get past this because I tried to tell you. Tucker's not seeing it. He's not remembering it, or he's just wants nothing to do with it. He's coming after him. And so everybody's asking questions to Cedric. Cedric says, let's just have a big conversation out in the open with everybody.
We'll have a big meeting in the living room.
And this is where Chemo it came back to bite Chemo in the ass. Yes. Because Tucker's immediately said, Quinn has the power, and Chemo confirmed it. And that's like, okay, well, you've just destroyed Chemo's game.
Not that he had a game going on at all.
No, it's just...
He's such a sideline player.
I get so frustrated with players that are just floaters.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a line that I wrote down here, and I'm trying to remember the context of it. But Cam was talking to somebody after this meeting and saying that he was nervous about America's vote because if America had voted him to go up there, then everybody's going to want to get a competitor out, and he felt like he would get eliminated.
Joseph?
No, Cam said that.
Oh, Cam said that.
And I was like, Cam, what makes you think you're a competitor? What have you done?
Yeah.
It's so funny. Everyone thinks that they're a good competitor, and it's like, but you haven't won anything. You win something, you'd be a competitor. People like Cam, though, are probably really good competitors, and they just lay low for the first 8 weeks, and then after that, they start winning. But then, so one of the funnier things about the episode was Joseph felt like America didn't like him. And so he was pretending that, or he was saying he was going to be the one.
Yeah, he was convinced he was going to be the one that went up.
Right. And so he was saying he hoped that it was a judo competition in the AI arena, because then he was walking around the house practicing judo.
Yeah.
Because he's going to win the AI competition. I did not like him until this moment, and I thought this was hilarious.
I still don't care for him. I don't dislike him, but he could be out of the game, and I wouldn't even care.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even notice.
I mean, that I agree with that statement, but I just thought this was that was funny. But then there was that moment
with Mackenzie,
where he was walking by her, and she did some sort of
karate chop, and then he flinches, and she's like, I didn't even do anything to you, Mr. Karate."
I know, she just completely called him out on it. So funny. When they put Quinn up, that's when Tucker went like that in between them. I was like, ugh. Good for him.
I will say though, because we go into the AI arena, Tucker is definitely full on Ace Ventura, Jim Carrey from Ace Ventura now. He's got the whole getup from the second Ace Ventura movie with the weird hair and the fighting clothes. It's full on
He
Ace Ventura.
embodies like the love child of Ace Ventura and everything that your cousin from Boston commercials embodies. Those two things combined are Tucker, 100%. So the competition in the AI arena, it looks kind of fun. I want to try it out. They got all these balls. It's like one of those money grab tubes that you get into, a money floats
with
around.
these little
but
balls flying in the air.
And you got to grab red balls, 20 red balls, and put them in a tube while they're all flying around. I'll say, as soon as I saw this and I saw the balls going around, I said, whoever the winner of this competition is going to be the person who grabs the balls on the bottom of the thing, because they would sit there for a minute. So if you just kind of sat down and waited for them to sit before they flew up, you could grab them. And that's exactly how Tucker played the game.
Yeah.
And it didn't take Tucker very long at all.
No, he blew through
everybody.
that and won it. I mean, I think he got his 20 balls in and everybody else was like at 4 or 5.
Yeah. And then Angela starts crying.
Yeah, I put on here, why is Angela crying? She's not even playing.
I know. Before this, I wrote, I hate Tucker more than Angela. And then when she started crying after this, I said, I was wrong. I hate her more again. She's crying for no reason. So Tucker wins. So now it's Quinn and Kenny up there.
Yeah.
And Tucker's like excited because he's like, everyone's going to vote Quinn out. And this is amazing. And, so they each give a speech, and Tucker does the thing that Quinn does the thing that good players of this game do. They try to make a funny speech. They put a target on someone else's back to make people not come on them, which by doing that puts a target on their back. And you want to keep the person that has the target on their back because everybody's going after them. They won't be looking at you. So he does that smartly so to tell everybody, look, they're coming after me, I'm going after them, you all sit in the background and nobody cares about you. And so that was smart. But then Kenny gave a speech. I don't even remember what he said. I just don't care because I just
do what you think is best for the game.
Yeah, I was hoping everybody would just get you are out of there. But while Quinn was giving his speech, Tucker's just mumbling.
Yeah.
It's like, this is where it's like I just feel like he takes it. He's taken it to a level of like anger and personal and everything, and it's really all just a game. Yeah. For the most part. One season it wasn't. One season somebody slept with some girl to get her vote, and then after the vote happened, he wouldn't talk to her anymore. And I was like, well, no, that's a little too far.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it's vote time, right? And Tucker's the first one to go, and he says Quinn. He votes Quinn out. But he also does this thing where people say this. I sadly vote to evict, but they get tongue tied and they say, instead of saying I vote to evict, they'll say I e-vote quit, or I vote to, or I e-vote something, and they mix it up. It happens every season. Somebody messes up, which is why Julie was like, just to be clear.
I didn't even notice that.
So that's the one vote for Quinn.
Everybody else votes for Kenny.
Every other vote goes to Kenny. And great.
Yep. So he went home.
So that's the end of that. And then we go to Sunday.
Yes. Tucker is...
Which, by the way, can I just say how sports ruin my life sometimes? I do enjoy sports. But Sundays, Big Brother is supposed to come on at 8. It did not come on until 10:30 last night. Because of delays in sports games and things like that, and it didn't happen until late. So that'll be every Sunday because football's coming back on, and it's if the games go late. So I just imagine that it opens up with Tucker lamenting that he's the only one who voted for Quinn and he doesn't have anybody in the house. And I wrote, I don't feel bad for him.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a target on his back. Pentagon's coming for him. We'll see what happens.
So then they do this thing that I like to call the Tampa Pride Head of Household competition, where it's bad AI images, and so I make a joke because they made an AI promo and it got sent out without anybody looking at it, and it was the most jacked up faces and multi-fingered hands that I've ever seen.
So they're given 3 pictures, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that jacked upness.
Yeah, you're trying to find
You're trying to find the most messed up image.
Yeah, what's messed up in the AI thing, and it's another one. It's an interesting competition too, and this is the first of its kind. There'll be other ones where two people at random are put up there, but the loser is out of the competition. The winner stays, but then picks two people. So what the idea is that you pick two people that you're not working with, so that one of them is eliminated,
Yeah.
and it really starts to show who's working with who in the house, which is why Brooklyn got so bent out of shape because Angela picked her twice in a row.
Yeah, that one, because Brooklyn annoys the crap out of me. But that one, I don't think Angela was intended like, oh, I'm going to get Brooklyn out. She just picked two girls. Then Brooklyn won and picked Angela, and I think Angela was just doing it like, oh, you picked me, so I'm going to pick you
No, see,
again.
and here's this. This is one thing that I appreciate. What I was saying earlier, which is different than Tucker, Angela outright admitted that she was trying to get her out. Like she told Brooklyn, "No, I would never do that." And then she's in the dining room and she's like, "Yeah, I put you up there twice. I'm not working with you. I want you out." So yeah, I mean, I totally appreciate the fact that Angela at least admits to herself and us that she is playing a game. So if she's lying to people in the house, she knows that she's lying to people, and that, you know, and I like it when they do that, because they get, then you're like, okay, you're not just crazy, you're it's strategy. So it all comes down, the final two are Cam and Angela.
Yeah.
And you got one side of the house, well, most of the house,
Yeah, because Cam's one of the Pentagon,
yeah,
so they want
praying
him.
that Cam wins, and then you've got Tucker
Pulling for
praying that
Angela.
Angela wins, and then Angela
wins.
And
She's
guess what?
the HOA again.
Guess what happens?
Doesn't matter.
She cries.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't-
What happens from this point on in the episode doesn't matter.
Right. Here's the thing, too. Like, if I was, I just feel like if they're playing the game, then, you know, the Tucker plays to win, because the only way Tucker stays safe is if he wins head of household.
Yeah.
There's no other scenario. Maybe Rabina. So Rabina and Angela play. Everybody else just plays to get rid of them, but you don't want to win. You know, just what's the point in winning? Because everybody in the house knows Tucker is going to take over. He's got the power to do it. And what's so dumb, too, where Angela, like, what makes me think she's just not a good player most of the time is that he told her specifically everything that power did, and she pretends, and she's like, oh, I don't know what this means.
Yeah,
Like-
I don't think she understood when Quinn initially told her the power. I think she misunderstood what he was saying. She didn't know.
But
what,
it's basically I do everything. You're not head of household
you're
at
now
all.
I think she mistook it as he gets to put up 3 new people. If she gets,
right, and not that,
not that he gets to just take over.
right, and
Yeah.
so, but in addition to putting up, they're just because she didn't get to put up people at all.
No, not at
so
all.
she was thinking like, oh, maybe he won't hate who I put up,
And then he won't pull them down.
and then he won't pull them down. But it's not like that. Plus, if one of them comes down in the veto, he gets to name the replacement, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
So he definitely takes it over, and he puts up. Oh, this is something that I find weird too. Cedric volunteered to go up.
Yeah.
Why?
I have no idea. Particularly if you have that much power, Quinn, I don't understand why you put Cedric up there.
Right. It's because it gives somebody 2 chances to beat Tucker.
Yeah. It just seems risky, particularly if he's
Right.
like
Because
a
he keeps beating you.
guaranteed number for you.
Yeah. So, but I guess that. Oh, Angela couldn't go up, so that's why. But
Yeah,
he was
Angela-
talking about putting up. What was he going to put up? Mackenzie.
Rabina.
Oh, Rabina.
Yeah.
Right, which would have made sense
Because her and Tucker are
Because what
Cutesy.
if Rabina wins, she's going to pull Tucker down. If she gets put into the veto and she wins, Tucker's coming down, and that's just going to ruin their game.
Yeah.
And if it happens that way, they deserve for it to be ruined. I still feel like one of my favorite people on the show is Cedric, and so that's probably why I don't like Tucker,
Yeah.
because he's just constantly attacking him for what I would say is an unjustified reason.
when $750,000 on the line, everything's justified. What I did
Almost
find
everything.
interesting before would they go and do the deep fake Angela who picks the 3, Quinn meets with Chemo and T-Core. And because he's in alliance with them too. And I found it interesting that in the diary room, he said that the Pentagon is just a shield for him and that's his real alliance. Pentagon's going to be very upset when that eventually comes up.
Right, but when you've got a 3 like that, it doesn't come up until the end. And by then it's too late. And it's really like it'll make people angry when they get to the end and they start getting picked off and they realize it's because of something. Those are the best players. Like there was a group of 4 guys and a girl. It was a group of 5. And they had a name, but it was really just the group of the 4 guys. And so when they got to the 5, they were all together and the girl was so happy and she's like, I can't believe we did it. Now it's everybody for themselves and may the best person win and blah, blah, blah. And they were like,
nope.
They were like, no, honey, you're going home because it's the 4 of us. And she's like, so she's just realized that her entire summer in that house was for
just
nothing.
helping them. Yeah.
And so that'll happen at the end of the season for sure to somebody. But it was interesting. And one thing I don't want to glaze over is that a showmance is formed, and it's funny because we already said Chemo is like in love with Tucker.
Yeah.
But Tucker and Rabina have started a showmance, and they were like cuddling in a room, and poor Chemo walks in and walked right back out.
Poor Chemo.
Poor Chemo, always a bridesmaid.
So sad.
I mean, it's getting interesting in a way.
Yeah. So Quinn enacts his power, which is the deep fake HOH, and a deep fake Angela pops up. The look on her face is cracking me up, though. She's like, "That's not me. I didn't do it." And Angela, Quinn in the mask of Angela, puts Tucker, Mackenzie, and Cedric up there for eviction.
You know, I will say this about Tucker. I may not like the way that he's playing the game, but if you keep winning competitions, then you deserve to win. Yeah. And you know, if he keeps getting put up and keeps winning vetoes, then he deserves it. And there was one season where there was this guy, and there was he was on the block, and he had to play a game in pairs, and if he didn't come off the block, he was going home. Everyone wanted him to go home. So he was playing the game with this guy that he thought he was aligned with. And when it was time for the game to start, what it was is each person stood on one end of a thing and pulled on a rope at different there's like a bar, and you had to pull it to move it side to side and put a ball up and then move it into a hole kind of a thing, right? And it was this widespread thing, and so both players had to do it. And when the competition started, one of the players sat down and said, I'm not helping you. You're not winning veto. You're going home. Everybody's voting you out. And so this guy like stretched as far as he could and ended up grabbing these things and won the power of veto. And I was like, that was one of the greatest moments because, you know, he could have just yelled and screamed whatever, but he said, I'm just going to take it in my own hands and do it and win. So that was cool. So I would give Tucker that. You know, if he's if you're out there on your own and you're winning, you're going to build up a good resume. You're going to deserve to win.
Yeah. I mean, so far, yes, Tucker is cocky and he's arrogant and he's very aggressive sometimes. But I don't know. Just the whole house seems to be against him, and I don't like it. I'm pulling for you, Tucker.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that kind of aggression, and I also wasn't a fan of Ace Ventura. So
love Ace Ventura.
Combining all those things do nothing for me.
That may be partly why I love him.
So it's getting interesting. It's one of the more dramatic seasons of late. So it's interesting. All right, so that was Big Brother. Keep watching it.
Yeah,
we'll keep watching it, I guess. And and when Chemo goes, because we know he's not going to win, we'll discuss whether we want to continue it further.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we're already this much into it, it's pointless not to see it through to the end.
So we had a request. We have a listener request messaged us on Instagram and asked if we would review the movie Challengers.
Yeah. So we did.
So this is the. Can you call it a tennis movie, or do they just use tennis as a vehicle?
I mean, that's any sports movie.
Yeah.
The whatever, even any
like
sports
Bull Durham,
movie.
I'll say, is about baseball. Major League's about baseball, but
It's about
Field of
the
Dreams
relationships.
is not about baseball.
Every movie's about the relationships. Things blowing up behind you or people playing sports. It's all just filler. It's about the relationships. But yeah, so this is came out earlier this year. It's from Luca Guadagnino.
I'm sure that's exactly how it is.
Sounds right. He is the director of Call Me by Your Name. Came out
yeah?
a few years ago.
I thought I like to call it the Peach movie.
And he also has another movie coming out this fall called Queer with Daniel Craig. Obviously, as you can tell from the 3 movies that I just mentioned, he is gay. So when Queer comes out, I really want to see that because that looks really good. So, but he's a really good director, and he has a really interesting filmmaking style, which we'll get into here, because some of the camera work he does with the tennis matches in here was mind blowing to me.
So there's 3 main characters.
Yes.
There's Zendaya, who is of what's the show on Max?
Oh, she's from Euphoria.
Euphoria.
Emmy award-winning actress of Euphoria.
Yeah.
She won an Emmy for it.
Spider-Man's
She's
girlfriend.
MJ and the Tom Holland Spider-Man's.
Actually, Tom Holland's girlfriend.
Actually?
And Spider-Man's girlfriend.
Tom Holland's girlfriend. Yeah.
She's a trapeze artist in The Greatest Showman.
Greatest Showman. She was on the Disney Channel. That's how she got her start.
She's got versatility.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give her that.
Because she started as a Disney Channel actress and she started doing more kind of fluff stuff early in her career. But like I would say in the last 5-6 years, she's really shown how well of an actress she is. I mean, she blows my mind.
Just the difference in her from Euphoria and Spider-Man.
Yeah. It just blows my
great.
mind. She's just so talented.
And then she plays a different kind of character in Challengers, I think, too, which is interesting. So there, she's in there. Then there's Josh O'Connor. Oh, is that his name?
Yes, Josh O'Connor.
I know nothing about him.
He was Prince Charles in The Crown.
Oh, in The Crown. Okay, yeah, I didn't watch The Crown. Okay.
Oh.
So people know who he is.
He was also I think he was in Doctor Who. He was in some seasons of Doctor Who.
And then there's Mike
Feist, who was in, when did it come out? 2 years ago? West Side Story?
He's in West Side Story. He was the leader of the
Jets. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Tony is the leader of the Jets, but he was...
Is he? Or is he just the figurehead?
He was the figurehead, yeah. He's the Joe Biden of the
Yeah.
Jets.
He's the George W. Bush. Mike Feist. He's the Dick Cheney.
That's true. Interesting fact about Mike Feist, who, by the way, is adorable.
Yeah.
I think he's adorable. I don't think in this movie there was any choice. He's adorable. He was the original Connor Murphy in Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway.
Oh, okay.
He's a
I
Broadway
didn't know
star.
that.
In fact, he also starred in the Brokeback Mountain show that was in London last year.
He sure did. Saw a picture of that today.
I thought you might like to see that.
Yeah. Well done, Michael. You did a good job in that show. I can tell from that one still. So those are the 3 major players in this movie, and it's a movie about tennis, and it's a movie about relationships in tennis, and it's about sex at tennis.
I will say this: I just hope that one of these days that we watch a movie that I'm going to give 3 grapes to, so that everybody could hear me talk like how much I really liked a movie.
You didn't like this?
Well, I don't want to give away my feel. There are very specific things I have to say about very specific things, but the movie starts off basically with Mike Feist in bed in his underwear.
Yes.
And I was like, is he gay? I don't think he is.
He hasn't publicly
said anything. Maybe he's bi. We don't know. So sexually shouldn't matter. But I was just thinking, like, maybe I've seen too many videos in my time. But I was like, he looks gay.
Yeah.
That looks like a gay man laying in that bed right there.
Yeah. I mean,
I wasn't mad
we're
about
not going
it.
to out him, but if he is, he is. Good for him.
Welcome to the team. If not, I hope that you're a supporter.
I mean, I'm sure he is. He was in West Side Story and in Brokeback Mountain.
I know he's a Broadway guy.
But the thing with this movie, and it's I'm just right off the bat, I really like this movie. But it is a difficult movie to tell people about because it does that Pulp Fiction thing where it jumps all over the place.
All over the place.
And I feel like it would have been easier to follow the story if you would have just done it linear.
And my one comment that I was going to make to say, like, these are the things I'm going to say about it before I give my overall opinion of it, is the time jumps were unnecessary.
Yeah.
It starts, but I mean, it was clever because you see the previews, so kind of know what the story is about, right? It's going to be about these two guys that are going after the same girl, and something happens. And so you see this happening, the beginning part, and then it plays for like 5 minutes, and then it jumps back to 13 years later. But you don't know that it was going to jump back because where they are today is following what you logically think is going to happen in the movie. So it's just weird that it jumps back to 13 years before, and then it goes back to the time now, and then it goes back to 13 years before, but then jumps a year ahead, and then jumps 2 years ahead, and then goes back to present day time, and then it's just a mess. Like,
It just jumps all over the place.
I mean, there's it's not confusing because there's title cards to tell you what's happening.
It's not confusing if you're just watching the movie. If you're trying to make notes about the movie, it's confusing as hell.
Right.
But watching it, because I watched it, and then when I went last night when I went to bed, I rewatched it and to do some notes because I didn't do notes the first time.
Now I go to Disney a lot, so I don't know if you noticed this, but did you go to any of the stores while you were there?
I went to some of the stores.
Because there's a store like right at where the street goes off to Tower of Terror, and that row of stores right there is a store that sells a lot of Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
Because basically it's the Star Wars studios. And everywhere you look around, there's some product that says, I love you and I know, which is a takeoff of what Han
and Leia say to each other.
So they right off the bat in this movie, his character's name is Al? Art. So that's Mike Weiss plays Art, and Art is clearly in a relationship with Zendaya's character, Tashi.
Zendaya.
And he says, I love you, and she says, I know.
Yeah.
And I was like, to me, I thought, because I just have Star Wars on the brain, I was just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, I got the Star Wars reference in there, but the tone that she says it, because it's very, in Star Wars, he says, I know, as code for, I love you too, because he won't say I love you. When she says, I know, you get the feeling like, I don't think you really do love him. That's the tone she gives, which is very different than Han and Leia.
And isn't it weird that she says that they have a kid together?
Yeah. Well,
like, you don't know at this point that they've been in this long time relationship, but she's like, I know.
Yeah. I think
she's disappointed.
I think you learn in this movie that the only relationship she cares about is someone who is a winner. It has nothing to do with whether I love you as a person. I need to love you because you're a winner. And if you're not a winner, I can't love you.
Right. When she says, I know, she's sadly saying, I know you love me. I wish you loved tennis.
Yeah.
Because that's all that matters in the world.
If there's one theme in this movie that you take away is that Tashi doesn't love anything except that she loves tennis, and she just wants to see some really good fucking tennis played. I mean, she says it about 9 times in this movie because both boys are like, well, what do you want? She goes, I want to see some really good fucking tennis. And that's all she cares about, just the tennis.
That's it.
Even her daughter, because she has a daughter in
products. Did you know? I don't know if you noticed this, but I noticed this lately in Wendy's commercials because there's a lot of Wendy's commercials advertising the Frosty right now, and the way that people hold the Frosty is like deliberately with the label this way. So I just pick up on that. So I'm watching this, and every time they had a Coke product in their hand, they were like.
Oh, I didn't even notice
right
that.
Up front, right up central. I was like, there's definitely some product placement going on. So they're with the time jumps and everything, because it starts off with the boys, Art and Patrick. They're playing, and Tashi's watching them. And then we jump back to like a couple of weeks earlier.
And that's when they're on the couch and they're watching the match. And you really see that Tashi's just, all she cares about is tennis. Her daughter through the entire movie is taken care of by her mother. She tucks her daughter in at night and says goodnight, spends no time with her daughter. I did like the fact that her daughter came in there while they were watching tennis clips and she wanted to watch Spider-Man. And she's like, oh, I'll watch Spider-Man with you. Of course you will, because your boyfriend's in that one.
Deadpool wrote this. Huh? It's like lots of Deadpool wrote it.
So basically she just wants him to be a tennis champion, and his confidence is kind of shaken. So she enrolls him in this competition, the Challenger competition, where, quote unquote, he's going to play like a bunch of nobody players just to build up his confidence.
Yeah.
But we eventually find out that Patrick is also playing in that. So a few days later, we see Patrick at the Challenger, and he is looking for a room for the night. He has no money. So he's trying to bargain with this hotel attendant to give him a room. And she's like, no, I don't. He's like, I'll sign a racket for you. She's like, I don't know the fuck you are. You got money. That's how you get a room. So he ends up sleeping in his car in the parking lot of the Challenger and gets signed up. As he's getting signed up, he asks the lady for half of her sandwich. She offers up half of her sandwich because he's all hungry. So he's coming across as this kind of like, I have no money, I have nothing, I'm just here for the love of the game kind of thing.
And then, but she makes some sort of comment alluding to a match that he was in 2006.
Yeah.
That she was a judge. She was a line judge at, and as if to say, like, to give you some indication that at one point in his life he was a somebody. He was a somebody tennis player.
Yeah.
And that, or like, this is what launched his career, was this match, and she was there, and it was amazing.
Yeah. So then we jump 13 years earlier to that match,
which is between.
Which is, it starts with Patrick and Art. We find out that they were the best of friends.
Oh, yeah.
Did everything together. Everything. I got the impression they did everything together.
At one point, I wrote down this. I was like, is this movie just really about them, like, discovering that they're in love with each other?
That's what it feels like.
And, I mean, I guess when we get to the end, we'll answer that question.
Yeah. But, yeah, we find out they're friends. They're playing in doubles, and then the next day they're actually going to play against each other at the championship game.
Which you get the impression that, what are their real names? Art is not as good as.
Yeah, you get the impression that Patrick is a better player.
Yeah, you get the impression that Patrick's a better player because Art's like saying, please let me. Don't.
Yeah, he's like, my grandmother is in a nursing home and she's dying and she's going to be watching with her friends. Just throw the match. Let me win.
But make it look good. Make it look like I had to work for it.
Yeah. So he's like, just let me win. So before they play, they watch Tashi play. And they both just become instant infatuation with her. And they just, they're watching her. One grabs the other one's thigh and squeezes it a little bit and like, ooh, look at her.
I mean, I got to tell
very
you.
Very erotic.
She's stunning.
Yeah. And she comes out and just gives like that Venus Williams energy. She's just like passionate and aggressive.
Badass.
She's the Tucker of challengers.
Wow. Now this movie gets no grapes.
So they watch her play, and then they go to a party, and they see her there, and they both approach her and in no uncertain terms basically say that they both have crushes on her. So they're like, hey, let's go hang out at the beach and talk tennis, blah, 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 blah. So they go down to the beach, the three of them, they're hanging out. And
and Patrick's like just aggressively like, hey, I want your number. And Art's
a little more reserved.
It's like, hey, tell me about what you like in life and let's have a conversation and get to know each other. So their approach is a little different, but they just both flat out are like, we both want your number.
Yeah. And she seems a little more interested in Art because they start talking about school. They're both going to be going to Stanford.
You think so?
I do, because she seems to be more interested in what he's doing. Because Patrick's being very forceful of, oh, yeah, I'm going to go pro. Why aren't you going pro? And she goes, because there's more than just hitting a ball with a racket. And she's like, I hear you're going to Stanford and, you know, blah, 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 blah. I felt like there was more of a connection there.
See, I feel like she is all about winning and aggressive winning, and that she was Team Patrick because Patrick was aggressive. And that
Oh, I
she's
didn't
like,
get-
she's
I
like,
got that
I'll
that
be
was
friends with
off-putting to
you,
her.
little boy, but this is the man.
Yeah, it felt like to me in the beginning that she was more interested in what Art had to say. But I mean, you know, it turns out that she wanted to try them both
Well,
out.
I mean,
so.
she just, yeah, that's,
So they're like, you know, hey, why don't you come back to our room? And they were like, we have beers. And she's like, no, I'm fine. I'm going to go back to my room. So they're both hanging out in their room. It's very hot, much like in here. The
So
window's
hot in
open.
here.
So they hear a knock at the door and it's Tashi. And she comes in and they're hanging out, drinking beers. And we find out that Patrick and Art go way back. Patrick taught Art how to jerk off. That's a lovely story that they share.
yeah, I mean, as friends do.
Yeah. So Tashi gets on the bed and she like pats on the bed. Hey, boys, why don't you both come up here? And they both go, they're like, which one? And then, you know, they both hop up there and she starts kissing Art. And then she starts to kiss Patrick. And then the three of them start to kiss. And then she leans back and just Art and Patrick just going at it.
Well, I mean, first they touched and then they broke away, and then she pulled them back in and said, "No, we're gonna do this." So then she leans back and they're just going at it for
Yeah.
like a minute.
Yeah.
I was like, "How long is this gonna play out?" Because it was a long time.
Yeah.
And then she finally went, and then
And
they
they're like, "Oh,
realized
hey,
that they were just
hey."
making out with each other.
So she's like, I'm going to get going. And they're like, well, which one of us is going to get your number? And she tells them, whoever wins the match tomorrow can have my number. And she walks out. And Art stands up and he's like, what are we going to do? And Patrick's like, you have a boner, and just slaps his erection. Which is a fun way to end the evening.
Yeah, Art's trying to say like, remember you said you were gonna let me win, and Patrick's like, not anymore.
Yeah. And then flicked his erection. So they play
The erection he got from making out with Patrick.
with his
Yeah.
his Patrick. So they play, but we cut back. This is where we start to go back and forth a little bit. So we cut back because we don't realize who won yet, because we know that they're going to play the next day and that the winner gets her number. And
Do you want to tell it linearly, or do you want to jump around?
I wish I would have put my notes in linear. Do you are yours written literally?
Nah, I mean mine are written as the thing goes. My next, because I guess they go back to the, I don't know where they jump in time, but all my next note is there's a lot of penis.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So they're back to 13 years ago. And they're Patrick and Art are playing. This is the next day. After you find out at this point while they're playing that Patrick actually won the game, and got her number because they went on a date.
Right. So they're back to present day time playing at the challenge.
No. This is when they're playing after the date, because he keeps asking him, "Did you guys sleep together?" So
Oh, right.
Yeah. So he's like,
So it's like
you
a
have
year later.
Yeah. What?
It's a year later from the 13 years before. See how it gets confusing? Because it's like present day, and they went 13 years earlier when they had
Yes.
the makeout session. Oh,
And then it's just it's like a few weeks later, because he's already won. He got the number. Patrick got the number, and they've already gone on their first date. It's like 2 weeks later.
Oh, got it.
So
And
they're
just
playing.
practicing.
Yeah, they're just playing,
Got it.
practicing.
I'm with you.
And Patrick tells Art, you have a specific style of serving where you take the ball and you stick it in the little that little empty triangle at the base of your tennis racket. And he's like, if you serve that way, Art tells Patrick, if you serve that way, that means that you guys slept together. And if you do your normal serve, that means you didn't have sex. So they line up, and he sticks it in the ball in the hole, and he's like, oh, he gets this little smirk on his face, like, oh yeah, you guys did hook up.
And then he gets sad.
And then he gets sad because he really likes her. Back to present. Patrick is it's that main game that they're playing in, and Patrick wins the first set.
Yes.
So because it's going to be 3 sets. So then they start the second set. Then we go 12 years ago. We go back 12 years, and Tashi and Art are at Sanford. and they're having lunch, and Tashi has been dating Patrick for a while here, and Art tells Tashi that he's surprised that they're still dating. And he's like, Art tells Tashi that Patrick doesn't love her, and she's like, what makes you think that I need to be loved? And you can kind of see that aggression in her, where it's like, relationships for me aren't about love.
Right.
It's about winning, and he's out there winning.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah, he's
Pony
out there.
boy.
Yeah, he's out there on the tour.
Yeah.
He's doing his thing, and you're just sitting here in college doing nothing with your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Patrick comes in, him and Art grab a churro, and Art starts to poke at that end. You can tell that he's kind of trying to become a wedge between them, because he still really likes Tashi.
Yeah, he's kind of being a dick.
Yeah, not being a good bro.
No, he's being a dick. And she even points it out. When he says he doesn't love you, when she leaves, she's like, you might be the worst friend ever.
Yeah.
And he's like, maybe. So then Patrick shows up to watch his girlfriend's tennis match.
Yeah.
And then he says to Patrick that she's, not interested in him.
Yeah, she's not interested in you. And Patrick kind of lights up, because he's like, I see what you're doing here. I
Yeah.
know that you're trying to put a wedge to us, and I like it. I like to see this burning and passion inside you. You don't use that enough.
Yeah.
So he's a good bro, and he's like,
Yeah.
don't fuck my girlfriend, but I like what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and so then Patrick goes to see Tashi, but then they both let what he said get to
in their
them,
head,
and they get in a big fight.
Huge fight.
Because he's like, tell me you're my girlfriend. And she's like, just fucking play tennis.
Yeah, and he goes, don't be my coach. I don't want you to be my coach.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I don't know what you want from me. So then they have a big fight. He storms out, and he doesn't go to her match. So she looks up in the stands. She sees Art up there. She doesn't see Patrick, and she gets pissed. And that gets in her head. And in this game, she ends up injuring
her
her knee.
knee.
Yeah,
Oh,
it tears
her, like-
her. What do they call it? An ACL? Is that what they
I
call
don't
it?
know. It looked like she looked like her kneecap splintered in
Yeah.
100 pieces. It was painful to look at.
Yeah.
So then Art comes running down to save her.
Yeah.
And to be there for her. And then they show her in like the physical training room where it's all bandaged up and she's crying and Art's there with her. And word has gotten to Patrick what happened.
Yeah.
And he knows that tennis is her life. So he comes running to be by his girl's side and he walks in there and Tashi yells, get out.
I don't want to see you.
And
Get
then
out of
he's
here.
like, I just want to. And then Art says, get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out. My lady has spoken.
I was like, okay, now this is the point that I wrote down. So far, Art is hot, but I'm Team Patrick because Art's a dick. Or it is arguable to say that this is all Art's fault.
Yeah.
He set this in motion. He threw her off her game so that because she was upset and then she overdid it and blew this out and then forced them apart so that he could have her.
And I think as the movie goes on, you realize that has stuck in Tashi's head for the entirety of their relationship. And you can just see that has just eaten away at her. So we fast forward 3 years. Art is this big bad tennis player now, and he's got this trainer, and he's doing really well. And Tashi comes, sees him, and they go get dinner. And Art asks Tashi to be part of his coaching team. Because we skipped just a very small scene after her knee injury is he's training with her, trying to strengthen up her leg, and she realizes she doesn't have it anymore. She can't play because of the bad leg, so she becomes a trainer instead. So he asks her to join his coaching team, and he says he's still in love with her, and then they kiss. And they live happily ever after.
The end.
Until we go to present again. And now Art is beating Patrick, and he wins set 2. And Patrick starts beating his racket. I love how aggressive like everybody at some point is just beating their racket. Aren't those things expensive?
Every tennis player in this show breaks a racket at some point. It reminds me when I played tennis with my brother. He was we were very competitive against each other. We played tennis all the time because we lived in apartment complexes a lot as a kid. And we broke a few rackets getting mad at the other.
Yeah, it
It
seems
happens.
like a very aggressive sport.
I mean, they're not cheap.
No, I don't imagine they are.
I mean, like $40 at least. But they were rich.
Yeah, that's true. They all had money. Even we find out Mr. Patrick sleeping in his car. He has rich parents.
He's really rich.
yeah. Very,
Like
but he's
they have a foundation.
yeah, so he's just wanting to like slum it like the poor, so he feels like he's really earned it. I don't know what
I
his
don't
issue
know.
is.
Yeah, they never addressed what it was.
No.
Or if it's like it's just what he wanted to do to I don't know. His whole persona seemed to be just live fast and get laid.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't hate it. But
yeah, I
you
don't
know.
either. I mean, I still liked him the most,
Yeah.
I think, out of what was happening. Although then no.
No,
'Cause
he eventually turned out to be
they all
as
turn
terrible
out to,
as the other ones.
yeah, the three of them, they all deserve each other.
Yeah.
By the end of this.
So we're at present day. Art wins his match, and then we go back 1 week earlier that week, and Patrick and Tashi are at he sees him at the hotel, and he says, "I want you to coach me." He said, "Listen, we can all see it. Art has 1 season left him, and then he's going to retire. And your life is tennis. So I want you to coach me." And she slaps him, and she's like, "Why would I coach you? I hate you." And then he gives her a little slip of piece of paper with his number on it, and he's like, "Hey, here, call me if you change your mind. But I think that we can do really good things together."
So at this point, you're like wondering why. I guess it's because they had a fight and that she hurt her knee at that fight. Is that why she hates him? Because I don't understand why they're mad at him. They were the dicks to him.
Well, what we'll find out later is that I think Art was always jealous of Patrick, and I think in the steam room we see that the friendship was always based on Art was always jealous of Patrick.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that Tashi hates him is because, as we'll see later in the movie, she fucks him twice, and she hates herself. But instead of hating herself, she
But I think that's
projects that onto
that's
him.
That's why I said what I said in the beginning is that she wanted him because he was the aggressive winner.
Yes,
and
I think the
Art
passion
has
wanted
always
him.
been the weaker one, or the quiet love, and she doesn't want any of that.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I feel like she always thought Art was the better player if he trained himself.
Yeah. Or if she
But that
trained him.
Patrick had the most natural talent. Plus, she does mention at one point in this movie, she goes, "Yeah, you have a big dick," and I was like, "Is that what this is? Is this what it is, Tashi? Is that what you just need to go back to that dick?"
Well, I mean, it's like I think she runs back to him because we at this point where his prediction was right, and Art says to Tashi, "I want to at the end of
we
next
get
year,
to that part, yeah.
I want one more year, and then I want to retire, and
Yeah.
I want us to do blah 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 blah." And then she's like, yeah, I'm gonna go fuck the other guy, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna coach him."
So they start this third set. And then we go back 8 years to Atlanta because he had mentioned the reason that you're mad at me is because you're mad about Atlanta. And we're like, what is Atlanta? And then we flash back 8 years like, oh, we're going to find out what Atlanta was. So we're at Atlanta, and Art and Patrick are in the finals. They're going to compete against each other. And
Of what?
Just some other tennis tournament.
Like, is it an open? No.
No. It's just
They're not that. They're not that.
No, they're not
advanced
there
yet. Yeah.
It's just something in Atlanta. An Atlanta thing.
The Atlanta Challenge.
The Atlanta Challenge, something. This is when the sauna happens, and you find out that he's.
Is it the sauna? The sauna's the night before the
See, this
the
is
thing
where
at the
going
end.
the back and forth. You know what it is? It's because in the 13 years ago, they all had longer hair. So you can say, oh, yeah, that was 13 years ago. The other two areas, Atlanta and then the Open or the Challenger, is they have the same hairstyles. It's
Yeah.
like, put a hat on or something.
But while we're on the sauna scene,
Yeah.
a sauna scene.
Yeah.
That's a sexy scene.
Yeah, they're both just sweating with towels on. We see Patrick's ass.
It's
He's got a
definitely
nice
an
ass.
intimidation. It's all about intimidation, and which is interesting between the two of them
Yeah.
because of the relationship they had before her, and then the relationship they had after. And what are they really intimidating each other about in that moment? Is it about the tennis match? Is it about her? I find it interesting.
So the Atlanta thing was the bar when she's sitting in the bar and Patrick sees her and he comes and sits down with her and they're talking And Art comes in and he sees them at the table and he's going to go say approach him and say, what the fuck's going on? But a fan comes over and is like, hey, can you sign this hat for me? And he turns around, signs the hat, turns around, and they're gone.
Yeah,
He
you're
knows.
right. This is where it gets confusing because they're in the sauna.
Yeah.
And
then
he
it goes,
says, you're mad about Atlanta. And then it flashes back to her
To
in,
Atlanta,
a
yeah.
hotel. And they run into each other. And that's when he says, coach me.
So at this point,
Yeah.
they don't show that they did it, but they make reference to, and then they later on say they did it. So he sees them at the table, turns around, signs the hat, looks back, they're gone. They went off to fuck. So he knows that they hooked up. Let's see, where were we?
There's no telling.
What time frame were we in? Art sees them together at the bar. He looks at the sign the hat, turn around, back to present. It's the night before the match. And that's when they have the talk in the room. And he's like, hey, listen, whether I win or lose, I'm going to retire. And she says to him, if you lose, I'm going to leave you. So if there's your motivation.
I mean, he basically says to her, because she's like, okay, this is fine. And then he says, will you stay with me? Like he
knows.
He says to her,
Yeah.
I think you're going to, he goes, I want you to stay with me even if I'm not playing and winning. And she finally says, if you quit, I'm good. If you retire, I'm going to leave you.
Before this, because what he says is, she's like, I don't know what you want from me. And he says to her, right now, be my coach. And that's when she says, if you lose tomorrow, I'm going to leave you. Does that motivate you? And then they go to sleep. She comes out of the room. The lights are off. So it's the assumption he fell asleep. And she goes to her jeans and she pulls the little paper out with the phone number and she gives Patrick a call. And then she goes out and she meets him. There's this wild windstorm going on at night.
Can I just roll my eyes
Yeah.
at the wild windstorm? Like, this is my major problem with this is the ridiculous symbolism in this movie. And this is ridiculous. We didn't need a wild windstorm to tell us that their relationships were all in this crazy windstorm. We get it.
I didn't mind the windstorm.
You probably don't mind the other thing. That, in fact, I know that you and I are going to completely disagree at the end of this movie on what I'm going to say about it, which I can't wait to get to. Have another glass of wine and yell at me. It'll be fun.
So they have sex in the car. Patrick and Tashi have sex in the car, and then she goes back and she goes into the room, and she notices that he is in bed with the daughter. So he went and slept. He woke up, she wasn't there, and he went and slept in the daughter's room. So she's like, oh, he got up. He knows that I wasn't here. And he knows.
And she was, and that whole ritual of them getting together and like, I don't want to kiss you. I don't want to have sex with you. And then like, I hate you. Get out of my car. We're going to yell. And now we're going to do it in the car. And it's just, it was a lot.
Sometimes you need that little...
I appreciate this,
anger.
that there's no love between them. It's all, we like power and winning, and we're both powerful winners, and we're going to do it. And that's all it was.
So back to the match. No more time jumps.
Oh
now
my
we're
God.
here in the moment.
Now we're going to find out what happens.
Match point. And...
Oh, wait. We didn't say this because this is very important to the end of the movie. When they're in the car, after they have sex, they're in their post... Coitus hugging.
Oh,
and
she asked him to throw the match.
Yeah, she says throw the match, which is basically her way of saying I don't want to leave him.
Yeah,
I want to be with him, and I told him I was going to leave.
She does love him,
right? So she says you need to
you need to save my marriage,
but make it look like he
beat you.
He beat you, and so he I guess agrees to this.
Yeah. He's
so
like, okay.
So then you're like seeing this whole thing differently because now you're seeing the looks, like the whole movie you're seeing looks between Patrick and Tashi, and it's like, okay, it was about throwing the game.
Yeah.
And now it's getting annoying. So then you're back at the match.
Yes.
There's no more going on. There's no more back and forth about that. But then all of a sudden, because it hasn't happened yet, all of a sudden the tennis match becomes from Art's point of view.
Yes.
And so they're playing match point, and it's his point of view. And he wins that point and gets advantage.
Yes. And so Patrick goes to serve.
And then it's from Patrick's point of view.
Yes, and it's the way that this last match, the portion of the match point is filmed. Do you ever see Raging Bull?
No.
It reminds me of Raging Bull. Martin Scorsese does these like camera angles where he like comes into the rope and like you're watching from the outside of the ring, and then you go into the ring and you're actually in the match and you're like, you know, point of views and all this stuff. That's what the Matt, you're just going all over the place. One time you're Art, then you're Patrick, then you're the POV of the ball and you're bouncing back and forth. I liked it. I thought it was.
I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I get, yeah, and I get at the beginning of this conversation, you said that there was these camera angles and that you liked it.
Yeah.
So here's what I saw. Right, it's all symbolism, and Art is in control at this point in the storyline. She loves him. He's gonna win. You watch this point from his point of view.
Yeah.
Right. So then Patrick goes to serve, and he does that thing where he takes the ball and he touches it to the racket.
Yeah, so
which
he
basically
knows.
tells
I slept
Art
with your wife last night.
that they slept together last night, and now the symbolism, the slap you in the face, blatant symbolism is that now Patrick's in control. So they show the camera angle from the point from Patrick's point of view.
Yeah.
And so then Patrick serves it, and well, I mean, first he's trying to throw it, so he you know, he's going to throw the game, so he double faults, which gives advantage to Art. And now you're at the point of view where it's match point for Art, and Patrick goes to serve, and he aces him because he doesn't move at all.
Yeah, he just because he
Art
now
doesn't
knows.
move.
Yeah,
'Cause
he's got it in his head. He goes,
Yeah,
"Oh,
he's
you
like-
guys slept with each other."
Yeah, so I'm gonna throw the game. I don't fucking care. So that was like, oh, I'm ahead. This is my point of view. Oh, I'm ahead. This is my point of view. Then they decide for the final point of the game that they're gonna show the perspective of the ball.
Yeah,
And so
Because
the
it's anybody's
symbolism-
game.
Well, or because it's the symbolism is that this ball is Tashi that has controlled their entire lives for the last 13 years, and they're beating this about themselves until they decide they're not going to fucking do it anymore, which is why the movie ends the way that it ends.
Yes.
So it was, you know, that was the symbolism of the camera angles, and I just didn't. I mean, I thought, oh, I get it. It's but
I'm learning from the last couple of weeks. You're not into artsy films.
I don't mind it if it's done.
I thought
mean,
this was done amazingly.
Like if it's like, oh, that's so cool. Like, but to me, I'm like, okay, so I wrote this note down before they did this. Like after they slept together and the tennis match is going on, I was like, oh, he's gonna touch the ball to the racket.
yeah,
And I think like it's if you're gonna be clever in a way that's not obvious.
I think it's okay to be obvious as long as you're clever. I thought
Well-
it was very clever. I mean, obviously, yes, you saw that coming because, you know, they earlier in the movie, they take 3 minutes to explain what this means. It's like, oh, well, that's going to come back. But I think that you can be obvious and be clever.
Yes, I just don't think that they were, but that's fine.
Yeah, well, I do.
But we're at the last point, and the ball's the angle, and then
Yeah.
it stops being the angle, and you're watching this point, and you want to describe how it ends?
Sure. I mean, it's just going back and forth, and then Art lunges over the net. It almost was like volleyball. But he's like, you don't know if he's going to crack the racket over his head or if he's going to spike the ball or what he's going to do. But he flies over the net, and he lands in the arms of Patrick, and they embrace. And Tashi stands up and screams. At first, it seems like, you know, with anger, but then it's like with excitement because she finally got some good fucking tennis out of the two of them.
Well, because it was a good point, but then she screams. She stands up and she screams, "What?" Does she scream what or why?
I don't remember what word she screamed.
It's one of those words.
But she has like at the end of it, she has like a smirk on her face.
Yeah, and then the credits roll.
And then the credits roll.
And then I Googled, what the fuck just happened in this movie? And it was, I mean, what I took from it is that, especially with the camera angles, is that they finally both decided to let the Tashi obsession go. And they were great friends before, and then all this shit went down. And in that moment, they decided they're going to get back to what their relationship.
Back to their roots.
Back to their roots, and then they hugged. And that she was like, okay, great tennis match.
Yeah, she got what she wanted.
Yeah, so
got great
I guess
tennis.
they all did.
Yeah. I loved it. I thought it was a great movie.
I thought, okay, so let's do, you're going to give it how many grapes?
3 grapes.
3 grapes. What
One
do
of the best movies I've seen this year so far. Not Ryan.
Not the same for me. Now I will say that I will point out that I love Zendaya. I think she's great. I think she was good in this movie. I like the character. I mean, the character she plays, she was very good at it. I don't know anything about the guy who played Patrick, but I thought he did really well. And I'm a huge fan of Mike Faist. Huge fan. So I'm not going to say that that was them. I'm just going to say this story did not speak to me at all.
Yeah.
I could care less about it. And because of that, and because I don't think for me that the direction and the story landed for me the way that it did for you. So I'm going to give it 1. Now, what do you think Rotten Tomatoes was?
Let's go. I don't know. I feel like critics like this one, and I feel like it did real well when it came out. So I'm going to say critics were 88 and audiences 89. I think that they were along the same lines.
That always makes me laugh when you get it right on. The critics were 88.
Oh, were they?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
But the audience was 73.
Really?
Now, I didn't read the reviews, so I don't know if some of that's like, hey, boys kissed. Let's give it bad ratings.
Yeah. I mean,
But I think 73, I think it probably deserved that.
Yeah. I will go on the record right now and say I will not be surprised if this shows up in about 5 or 6 Oscar categories come next year.
Really?
Yeah. Now,
Are you reading that there's buzz about that, or?
I mean, when the movie first came out, there was kind of buzz about Zendaya's performance, but just from this director, the amount of nominations Call Me By Your Name got. Now, he does have a movie, like I said, coming out this fall. They rarely will push through both movies if a director does 2 movies. Steven Soderbergh, back in 2001, 2002, when he had Traffic and Aaron Brockovich, was like getting double nominated the entire season. So I don't know if that'll happen for him.
Am I the only person in the world that liked Traffic?
No, I like Traffic. I thought it was a good movie.
People pan it now, right? It's like, I can't believe, didn't it win? I know that, is that the one?
No,
or am
you're
I thinking
thinking
of
Crash.
I am thinking of Crash.
Crash
I did
was
not hate
trash.
that. I didn't hate it.
Ugh. I hate Crash partly because it beat Brokeback Mountain, and Brokeback Mountain is a much better movie. And I also think I hate Crash because Crash is a terrible movie. It is so over the top, sappy, pull at your heartstrings. Racism is bad, but we'll all get through it together.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but I kind of want to go back and watch it now with my new hatred
new
of everything. You know what I mean? Apparently, I dislike everything.
Yeah.
I
I will say also Paul Haggis, who directed that, got Me Too a few years ago. So I just by default
I just
have
want
to
to
hate
point out
everything he
about
did.
the director of this film.
Yes.
I loved Call Me By Your Name, and and the previews for Queer look really good.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is. The combination of things just didn't add up for me. And I wanted to love it. I that's why I went to go see Deadpool last night, because I was like, after I watched Challengers, I was like, can we just go see something that I know is going to be good? And then I was just kind of like, that was okay. I feel like I haven't seen a movie in a little bit that was just amazing. And I can't wait to see that. That's all I got to say.
All right. Well, you need to watch more movies. There's some amazing movies out there.
We just need to pick an amazing one. I'm looking forward to it. So we kind of planned out ahead, you know, and the next couple of... I think we've got next month's movies, not really the rest of this month. But like, I'm looking forward to Prayers for Bobby.
Yeah.
I have high hopes for that, and the one after that.
I want to just let you know, Prayers for Bobby was a made-for-TV movie. So go into that knowing this is a made-for-TV movie.
Not just made for TV, it was made for Lifetime.
Yeah,
So I get it. But you remember we talked in the earliest of the early episodes about the movie called Doing Time on Maple Drive?
Yes.
That was made for Lifetime, and I loved that movie.
I mean, mean,
But I was younger then and full of hope.
also,
Now my hope has been destroyed.
if you're a huge fan of CBS procedurals, you're probably a big fan of Lifetime movies. I've seen some good Lifetime movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen some good movies in my lifetime.
Yeah. And maybe we'll see some next week. But until then, the cork is back in the bottle.